a screening, but it was the only slot we got and the only one we could afford, really. So thank you so much for coming. I would like to introduce to you my editor, who's been with me for the last 1.5 years, sat next to me, and we've been going through all this footage, 1,000 hours of footage, and it was quite hard to get through everything, but it was a lot of fun, and you've done an amazing job, Simon. So please come on stage. I'm not sure if Alistair is here. It's not. Okay, so that's it. That's the whole team, because our producer, who funded everything, he's in bed with a stomach bug, so in Germany, so he couldn't come. And other composers in Germany, I believe, as well. The cameramen are all around the world traveling, so that's it. That's the team. Now I would like to introduce to you the people who are the heart of this film and who have told their stories and who have helped me a lot to shape the film and who've made me understood a lot of things. I would like to start with Paul Shattock, who has taught me what it is, what autism is. The next person is someone who has actually opened my eyes on vaccination. Before, I didn't know anything about it. I planned to get my son vaccinated, and I didn't know anything about it. And I read his book, and all of a sudden I was very confused. And I thought, maybe I need to dig into things. And that made me want to make a film about this whole subject. Please welcome Richard Halverson. I would like to welcome the people who have told their stories and who have opened their hearts. It's not easy to talk about vaccine injury in front of a camera and to open up like that. I would like to welcome Nina Latif, Ali Latif, Christian Latif. Daphne, who has been amazing as well, very supportive. I would like to thank my family, my husband and my son, who've been very supportive. He had to listen to 2 years of autism and vaccine. Thank you for standing by me for the last 2 years. Who else? Mo Wilson as well. He's been very supportive with the Autism Trust. I came to see you guys. Thank you so much. All my friends that are here today who've been very supportive and who've had to listen to all my stories. Thank you so much for coming and being here today. Should we start with the Q&A? Should we sit down? This is there enough room? Okay, you sit here, I sit here. Okay.
I can stand.
Yeah, I think you've got enough space for everyone.
Sharing microphone.
Yeah, we can share this.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, questions from the audience. If anybody has a particular question, please put your hand up so I have an idea. There's one that's gone up already. If you'd like to introduce yourself and then who you're asking, I'll try and modify.
My name's Dennis Picknett. I'm an osteopath with children. I come to the whole vaccination question through the research I personally did with the questions of whether to vaccinate my children, which we withheld the MMR and withheld the HPV for my daughter. So I note that we're at a very strange moment in time when we've just begun the process of leaving Europe, and also we've got this very odd situation in America with Trump versus Clinton, and the strange irony that Trump has been vocal against vaccines, which is doubly disturbing because you want to sort of say, well, maybe we should take more notice of him. And also I've seen in the press that the decision by the English people to want to leave Europe has been characterised as a blow against big business and the people at last having their voice, and some people have described it like that. But do you feel that we've come, Natalie, I'll maybe ask you, because you've made this wonderful film, which I congratulate you for, and I really hope that more people are able to see it. I think it's a fantastic, beautifully balanced film. But do you think we are at the point on a wave where it becomes a tsunami, or are we going to surf forwards with all these world events happening? I certainly personally hope so. But what's your feeling about that?
Well, politically, I'm not, I don't know what's going to happen, but just in terms of my film, I mean, I've encountered a lot of, people were telling me, don't go into that route, don't start the questions about vaccines, autism, vaccine problems, etc. And I've encountered a lot of problems, as you know, with the East End Film Festival that pulled the film because there was a lot of pressure from outside, which I didn't understand. I'm a filmmaker. It's about freedom of speech. A festival should be about freedom of speech. I mean, we're allowed. We can see people being stoned on the internet, but we're not allowed to talk about vaccine safety. For me personally, that was really, I didn't understand this. I was really shocked when the festival lady called me, and I think. I hope that things are going to change in terms of, the government being more separated from the pharmaceutical companies and more independent research is being also considered, because the problem is, in terms of vaccines and problems, it's always, once there is a researcher who has found something, he's always debunked, because he's not in the pot of the researchers that are being asked by the pharmaceutical companies, which is a shame, because they're researchers as well and they're trying to do their job. So I think we need to have more independent research, and I'm not sure if this is answering your question. So I hope there's going to be a division where that there's more kind of difference between government and health agencies separated from the whole kind of big business. That needs to happen, I believe.
Thank you.
Rich, do you want to add something?
Just very briefly, it's not particularly my field, but I am not optimistic. I'm not very optimistic. I think we're going in an ever more neoliberal direction, which is less government money, less government funding. It's opening doors for the rich and powerful multinationals, which very much includes big pharma, big pharmaceutical companies that manufacture all the vaccines. So I wish I could be more optimistic, but at the moment, in the current direction we're going, I'm not.
Yes, Paul.
I just want to add that I think you're right, it's coming to a head, because I think it's this week that SB 277 comes in California, where there's no exemptions for vaccines. In the land of the free, you're free to do what you're ordered by the courts, or they will do it. And at the same time, I'm worried about the vote yesterday, to be honest. The EMA, the European Medicines Agency, on the whole, did a pretty good job in protecting us. They haven't been perfect in vaccines, but we have not imported the genetically modified foods that are sort of forced upon Americans without them being allowed to know that they're having them. And I'm more frightened of our own right-wing establishment. And I felt protected by the EMA, but I think this is going to be a parent movement. This is going to be a consumer-led thing. We're not going to find politicians coming to help us. We've seen what happened to Donald Trump when he tries. You've seen what happens to researchers when they try and take the lead in this thing. This has got to be a big-time revolution from below.
Thank you. Was there any other questions? Yes.
Yes, Bill Jacobs. I'm a grandmother of a preterm 2-month-old boy baby who is healthy now but is just about to be vaccinated, even though my son is an osteopath, I'm sad to say. Hopefully, what I want to know is, where can I point them to see this film? I've given them loads of information. I've been told not to give any more, but I still hold out hope that maybe I can do something, and this film could help.
In July, we're going to go online with the film, so people can actually buy the film, stream it online, and it's available online. I mean, Richard Halverson has been amazing with me. I mean, I'm not anti-vaccine. I just want to make that clear. And I think it's important to have a discussion about it and not scare parents to say, don't vaccinate, you know, horrible things are going to happen. I think you need to really talk about every disease. Can I delay them? Can I do them at a year? You know, do I have to do all of it at 8 weeks? And I mean, Richard has been really amazing with me for that, because I've also delayed things. And I think, yeah, it's important not to scare your daughter, because she's not going to listen. My mum tried to scare me as well, and I was like, no way. I had to do my research as well. I think parents need to do their research, otherwise they're not going to, you know, they don't want to listen to everybody. You know, this is bad, don't do this, don't do that. They have to do it themselves. They have to take the time to do it.
I think Natasha's protocol is very good.
Yeah, to look at children.
Yeah, to get hold of Natasha Campbell McBride's book.
I have it.
What she explains, the protocol of testing beforehand is very important.
There's also Dr. Jane, is it Donegan? She does talks.
Yes.
Here.
She's homeopathic. Yeah,
She's a medical doctor.
Also, oh really? I didn't know that. I thought she was a homeopath.
She was sued by the General Medical Council. It took 3 years and she won because they couldn't prove that vaccines were safe.
I know. I heard about it.
Well, actually,
I think
her evidence was challenged as being unscientific, and the GMC panel found her case in defence proven, and that she relied upon valid and sound scientific literature in relation to the evidence she gave to the court, and that's what the case was all about. She appeared as an expert witness on behalf of two mothers and children back in 2001. It was a typical failure of the family court system and the legal aid system, and she wasn't properly represented or was aided by counsel. And her evidence was described by Lord Justice Sedley in the Court of Appeal as junk science, which then led to the GMC proceedings, and it was nearly a 3-week hearing. Up to about 400 technical and medical references were used. There were about 5 expert reports, and the GMC's expert, at the end of his cross-examination, was challenged to answer about. There were only 2 points in his report, and counsel said to him, "But surely you're quibbling," and that was the end of the case. He quibbled about 2. He was only left with 2 points, and he was quibbling. And the unusual outcome was that Dr. Donegan was completely exonerated, and they found her case proven. Normally, the GMC will simply say not proven in relation to the charges, but in the case of Dr. Donegan's hearing, they actually issued a positive decision finding beyond reasonable doubt that her evidence to the court was sound and scientific.
Thank you. Do you have a follow-up question by any chance?
Well, actually, yeah. In relation to Paul Shatter was absolutely right in relation to how these issues are addressed. And with politicians...
Sorry, is it possible to have the microphone just for the filming? Thank you.
So Paul Shattuck is entirely right about how these issues are to be dealt with, because essentially the medical infrastructure, health officialdom is completely influenced by a very powerful drug industry, and in the US, of course, the media is subject to the influence of their advertising.
Apologies, I have to push you for a question, just because of time.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. How, in light of what Paul Shattuck said about how to take this forward, how are you going to get your film heard and seen and the message across in the light of the problems in publicising and lack of political support?
Well, it's been quite difficult. I have to say, I had never thought that this topic was such a taboo topic. We tried to get a distributor. It was very hard. We couldn't find one, quite frankly. Then obviously the whole cinema, the festival route, we decided to go the festival route. Then we had a great festival, we were super thrilled, and then it was pulled. We have spoken to a lot of magazines about it. Everybody's like, nah, we don't want to go there. So it's very hard, and what we're doing now is we're going to do an online campaign, and we're going to sell it online, and hopefully a lot of films that have been done before have gone out there, and have made quite a stir, and hopefully that's going to happen with our film as well. I mean, like vaxx, for example.
Well,
So,
you get banned by Tribeca.
yeah, I know. Well, we didn't. Tribeca is obviously. It would have been great to be banned from Tribeca because they're such a great festival. We didn't make it that far, but East End was also a quite well-known festival, and they did pull us because there was quite a lot of pressure from outside, and they basically signed a petition to get the film withdrawn. 6 people did, but the festival didn't realise that actually the shitstorm, backfired, and everyone else was like, what's going on? Freedom of speech. So there was like hundreds of comments on social media, and people were really shocked to see that it was removed. So I think the festival wasn't prepared for that.
But who are these people?
Sorry, would you mind waiting for the microphone?
It's actually very worrying from a sort of distributing information point of view. So who are these people who have so much power to protest against, something they don't even have to see it, but they sort of take the choice away from us as the public?
We don't know. I mean, there are people, I've experienced it with my film trailer, people that are just destroying everything on the internet that has got where you kind of question vaccination or just say that there might be problems. Immediately you're being put at anti-vaccine. Immediately. You're not even allowed to say anything. It's like branding, anti-vaccine, even if you're not. And there's called internet trolls. And there are some that are paid from the pharmaceuticals. I don't know, I can't tell you what happened with this case, but I find it very strange that people would sign a petition and make such a fuss and say you have to remove it, and they've been threatening the film festival, saying nobody's going to come, we're all going to make a huge fuss about it if you show the film. And they've been really scared.
And just from a distributing point of view, do you think it will limit the appeal if people have to pay for it? And have you considered stuff like crowdfunding, etc., just to make sure that as many people as possible actually see it? I
think we're going to try to make it as cheap as possible. I mean, we spend quite a bit of money on it, so we'd like to have just the funding back in. We're not going to make money with this film, we know that, and we want an awareness. It's not about making money, but obviously it'd be good to get so then there's money for new projects and films, and so we'll make it quite, we'll try to make it as cheap as possible so everybody can buy it, £5 or whatever. We'll see how, we'll have to check that.
Can I just take a minute to say that how many questions, if anybody wants to ask a question, just so I've got an idea.
George,
yeah. Have you got a microphone? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Hi. Well, thanks Natalie for this film, and very, very enlightening. I mean, I came over as, okay, is this going to be a purely anti-vaccine film? In which case, I'm not sure. I'm very comfortable, but I want to hear the argument because I learned a long time ago where you need to hear both sides of the argument. But I want to take a positive question out of this film, and I think it's very interesting to show the big pharma, Glaxo and Eli Lilly, etc. And I was very interested to see this Mittelstand German bio firm. And I think it's a question, correct me if I'm wrong, of relative speed. I mean, you have like the big pharma who are, using all methodologies to do vaccines versus the new. And how can you, I'm holding in favor, I think that the biotechnology industry should be all over it. I think this is my question. Why isn't there the new biotech industry all over this thing? Because they should be. That's the positive way of taking things. Saying big pharma is corrupt. Big pharma is as bad as the smoking industry, who, by the way, still survives. Philip Morris, etc. Still. So why isn't this new industry that is not weak, attacking and actually being more vocal about it? That is my question.
Because they're not strong enough. Because the pharmaceutical companies, in order to change the whole vaccines, they would have to make new, proceeding methods. Like they would have to change the whole factories. They would have to change the whole thing. That's going to cost billions, and they're not prepared to do it. If for them, there's no problem. So a couple of autistic children, it doesn't affect them in their kind of minds. Do you know what I mean? So they're not going to change their whole system just because people are saying there are problems, and that's the problem, that they're not addressing it, they're not listening. And hopefully things will change. I hope so.
Afternoon everybody, very privileged to be here today. Thank you so much for the film. My name's John. I didn't know anything about problems with vaccines until I met Magda Taylor, who runs the Informed Parent magazine and has done for 25 years. And no personal decisions I had to make was when my son came up to have his vaccinations. He's now sort of coming up for 18 and he's luckily he seems to be okay. My point really is on the back of the film Vaxxed, and you've got a representative of the film at the front there too, Andrew Wakefield is filmed being asked, since he's been ostracised and he's now living in amongst the alternative community, he was asked what would be his advice to parents about vaccines, and he said since he's been in amongst the alternative community, he's never seen such a healthy batch of kids as the non-vaccinated kids. And in your film, you mentioned that there hasn't ever been a scientific study of non-vaccinated kids. This seems to me to be a very easy way to proceed with giving some advice to parents. And just wondered if you have comments about the prospects of a study involving non-vaccinated kids.
Well, I mean, there's a good example is the Amish. They haven't got any autism. The Amish community, I mean, obviously they eat organic, they don't have electricity, they live very differently to us, but they don't have autism. So what are they doing differently? Organic, not vaccinating, not giving antibiotics all the time, having a different lifestyle.
So low electromagnetic radiation.
Low electromagnetic radiation.
I think it's quite interesting that Cuba has the lowest rate of autism. What is it, like? It's very low, 83 versus other countries, and I think there's something to learn there. They've got no GMO, no Wi-Fi. It's changing obviously now in the next few years, but I think that a lot of our comfort choices and way that we kind of our lifestyle choices have a lot to do with autism, at least my personal experience.
I can answer that from America's point of view too. Andrew Wakefield is an expatriate here, but he's going to end up being a hero in America because Vaxx was kicked out of Tribeca, but it's a movement now, and it's one that won't be stopped. This movement has taken off. They can't keep us out of theaters. We're selling out in every theater we go into in America. We were just in Calgary. A distributor has bought it internationally, so it's going to be distributed all over Northern Europe. I don't know if it'll get here, but there was a study that was done, and it's not allowed to be published. This study is amongst children of unvaccinated kids of chiropractors. I'm sure they eat GMOs. They've got the electromagnetic field. They're very healthy, extremely healthy. Vaxxed was done about the MMR. Merck owns the patent. Because Merck owns the patent for the measles, mumps, and rubella, that's why we can't get a single dose vaccination. Big Pharma drives that train in America. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to California for the rally that we're going to have next Friday for SB 277. Because GMOs were struck down, labeling of GMOs was struck down in California, and California is the most progressive state in all of the mainland, they've gone after them. And if SB 277 is allowed to stand, then we no longer are a democratic republic in America. We're under fascism and medical tyranny. It will not be long before it gets here. Fortunately for you all, you don't have mandates, so you can stay underground. But thousands of us have had to come up. We're no longer underground. We can't afford to be underground. If that bill goes into effect, all of America's in trouble. The problem is Big Pharma holds all the money. People don't know that the Vaccine Injury Court that was talked about here for the $3 billion, that comes out of our tax money. In 1986, pharmaceutical companies were given complete immunity for vaccinations. And when you look at that $3 billion, we're not talking about a lot of money to parents. You're talking about 19,000, 20,000, 50,000 here, but you won't get anything if you say MMR. And they lobby Congress. It's no longer a Congress for the people, by the people. They're bought and paid. They have enough money to pay up to 500,000 pounds to every congressperson there. Dr. Thompson should have been subpoenaed. He said what they did at the CDC. They've known it. It's been 2 years and he has not been subpoenaed. So just keep watching what happens there, because I'm afraid whatever happens in America is going to trickle over. It'll give them more and more power.
Thanks very much. Thank you. I know there's a few other questions. I just wanted to take 1 minute quickly, because we were pulled from the film festival. I wanted to literally just highlight a couple of things about the film. It's obviously been a mammoth task. I had one question, which was to talk about your journey from finding out about this film all the way through to its production and completion, and then we'll take a few more questions and a few questions directed at the panel. Just talk more about your journey, Natalie, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was, I was a mum, and I didn't, I was obviously planning to vaccinate my son as on schedule, and then I read on the internet, and I was very confused, because you had the pro people, you had the anti-vaccine, and I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And I realized I want to find out myself, and I want to do this, my own journey of, do I give him the MMR or don't I give him the MMR? What do I do? So then I went to see Dr. Halverson, and I read his book, and then I spoke to a lot of people around me, and there seemed to be such a different kind of, there's so different kind of points of views in the whole thing, and I was very confused, and that really made me want to make the film. And then I found someone who was interested in funding it, and he paid for everything, and he let me kind of do what I thought. And
his name was?
Lothar Moll, yeah, the producer. He's been very supportive, and yeah, that was, and now, here I am with the film, and yeah.
So with that title, Man, Made Epidemic, which is the next one? What topic?
I'm a bit, I would like a positive topic now. I'm a bit like, I need something positive, I don't know.
Woman-made solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Could you wait for the microphone, the lady in the purple? That's you.
Hi, I'm a teacher, and I deal with a lot of autistic kids, and I've always, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm anti-vaccine, actually. I don't know why there's such shame in saying that, but anyway, my biggest concern is when I have kids, how do I deal with social services, because I've heard of them getting involved. And that's particularly to the two ladies, sorry, at the end, I don't know your names, but have you heard of social services getting involved, and how do you deal with them?
Well, I'm a mum, but I was a nurse and a health visitor, and yeah, social services get involved. What happens is that they get the letter first, the parents, to say, why aren't you vaccinating, especially if you've missed the appointments. This was a practice, but I've not been working for a few years because I couldn't actually do my job in the end. I questioned everything. But anyway, I guess you've got to... I know there's a lot of cases been going on over the last few years where parents have been dragged, I'm not going to say, to prison and all sorts of things really, because of neglect, for not vaccinating their children, or for putting them on special diets, or giving them things that really they didn't think the paediatricians or the team were appropriate for these children. They've even made children, looked after children. I think, like Paul was saying, I'm not answering the question here very well, but parents have got to stick together now, and we've got to really make this movement happen. I haven't seen vaxxed, because we've not been allowed to. I've seen a few clips. I think social service will knock on your door and question everything, because I've worked, obviously, within teams over the years, and it's very sad as a parent and as a professional when, there is a problem. Who knows whether, who knows what's going to happen now we're at the EU. Who knows what's going to happen, obviously, with what's going on in America. and it is coming. But I never answered the door because I had social services knocking on my door once, asking me, you know, why aren't my children going to school? So obviously I was home educating for a while. I think you've got to be strong, and you just got to have all your evidence of why you don't want to vaccinate. And if they can't give you the answers that you're looking for, because at the moment we do have freedom supposedly of speech, even though this film nearly didn't happen. But as a parent, I will never ever let anyone tell me to do something with my voice that I'm not happy to do for myself, and that's been all along the way really. And I've been, called a few names by my work colleagues and people in the street, but I'm not happy to give them stuff that I wouldn't be happy to take myself. And I'm heavily immunised myself, and obviously the boys haven't had any vaccinations since MMR, and they're 15 now, and they're very different to the movie today. In a year, I mean, I can't believe how far they've come with language, with everything, and they're great. They're doing GCSEs hopefully next year. All I can say is, all I've done for the past 10 years, or 13, or 11 years, is be with other parents like myself, fighting the cause, but also fixing the damage. Now, something has to be causing the damage, and that's all we've all done, really. And if we're crazy, then how come our children are getting better? Ellie and Christian, they don't see themselves as having autism. They hate autism, to be honest, and but they are so aware of what is going on with them. I mean, they can speak for themselves. If you wanted to ask them a question, I'm sure. Just tell them to go away, but I know what will happen if you do, but that would be my choice, and I've done it, so.
Oh, hello, I'm Magda Taylor. In 1991 I started to study the subject because my second daughter was due for a vaccine, and up until that point I thought, you must do it, we've all been brought up to believe it, and it doesn't hurt. I used to think, for the good of the world population, and I just could not believe what information is out there if you start to look. And within a year of that, I met some other parents who'd chosen not to vaccinate at all. They were kind of studying before they were pregnant or while they were pregnant. I had already started with the vaccines. I remember with MMR, I said to the paediatrician, health visitor, why measles, mumps, rubella? I had measles, mumps, what's the big deal? Oh no, it's terrible. It's a bit like we saw on there. The old images in the 1950s, 51,000 cases in 1959 in the first 3 months, and they weren't battering an eyelid. They just said in British Medical Journal, measles is a generally run-of-the-mill childhood infection. Just to say, I'd love to see, it was great to see that, and it's great with vaxxed. There was another We Don't Vaccinate in Germany made, very, very, very good. Try and get hold of a copy. I didn't bring any literature, it's informedparent.co.uk. We've got lots of stuff there. I'd love to see more, because we saw a tiny graph that got ripped. And I'd love to see more about studying and exposing the whole theory behind vaccines. Because the germ theory, if that's not the case, then we're barking up the wrong tree, even trying to vaccinate without even these other chemicals. Diseases come down with increased better living conditions, clean water, sanitation, all the obvious things, nutrition. And we can achieve that, and it's all achieved. If you look at the epidemiology of all those diseases, they all came down before vaccines. And that's what, you can do it as a positive presentation about health.
Yeah.
So please do.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Can Anna just answer the question that was asked about social services?
Anna? Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. To help answer your question about social services, and also to try and blend it into a question for your panel.
Thank you.
We find that it's really difficult to address and help parents make this decision about vaccination without backing it up with two things, and that is support. So you were saying that you surrounded yourself with other parents, and that's absolutely vital. So giving information is quite cold and can sometimes be confrontative, like you found with your family. So having a support is vital. And the other thing is having information. And I am a parent of 2 children, and I didn't know anyone who hadn't vaccinated, and I was highly encouraged to vaccinate and delayed a little bit, and it never felt quite right. But I didn't know anyone for 3 years, and it was only when I got the stats out of the live births from the hospital, and then I thought, actually there's hundreds of babies born every year in my town. So I tried to find other parents, and I think that's key for you, find other parents. And so now we have nearly 100 groups in the last 9 years where parents are meeting up, and it's called Arnica. And the idea is that it's not led by an expert or a leader, although half of our groups are coordinated by health professionals. And it's really like a parent-led grassroots, grassroots up, which is what was mentioned. But despite that, and with a very strong 15,000 Facebook membership, we find that parents are really scared, even with the information, even with the support, because of the worry about disease. And so then you have to couple that with looking at natural immunity. So in terms of trying to sort of spread the word or spread the film, it has to come, yes, from the bottom up, but also in it knowing that those parents need support and that they mustn't be judged for their choices, whether they vaccinate or not, or delay or not. That's really important, to respect all choices. And specifically with the question with social services, Jane Donegan wrote to the head of social services a couple of years ago, and the reply, which we have saved as a file, says that social services are not interested in cases of non-vaccination only. There are 500,000 children in England not vaccinated at all, 500,000, and another 500,000 partially vaccinated. They don't have enough time. So I think it's very much about, again, showing respect for the professionals. So not being confrontational with them, thanking them for doing their job, their concern, etc. Some people refuse entry, and I totally understand why, but I think it's better to stay more open. Ask for support, always have somebody with you, follow up everything in writing, and usually be assured that the end result will be a good outcome, but you just have to stay calm, stay firm, stay respectful.
Thank you very much.
And the question, the question would be to Richard Howison. We've been following your work for many years, and it's lovely to have one person with some great information on their website. And even though we may not see eye to eye with everything, I really respect the support you give to parents. But I was really sad that you said you were quite negative about the future. And I just wondered what else you think we can do to try and, knock away at the doors, and also try and open more doors to parents, because, you're quite a niche. There's not many people doing what you do, but you have so much knowledge. And how else? I mean, you're quite brave yourself, and Paul Shattuck now you're not, you're free to speak. What else can we do? What else can the parents do in collaboration with some other, professionals to be a little bit more vocal? I'd love to be able to help. There's also a European group with 20 countries, the European Forum for Vaccine Vigilance. 20 different European countries. What else can we do to help you? Could you come up with a plan for us?
My rather negative outlook some minutes ago, I think, was from a government, more sort of government top-down perspective. And I think Paul is right, that actually it is going to have to be led by the parents, which is what is happening more and more. And of course the internet plays a huge role in that, because people can find out an awful lot more information as far as vaccines go. Most parents who come to see me actually are totally confused, having looked on the internet, because of course you get absolutely every view from all extremes, and they find it very confusing. But I think it is probably going to be, as Paul said, from parents themselves to try and point out the problems. And I think parents need to be, particularly when parents feel that their child has had a side effect from the vaccine, I think it's very important to push that one home. It's very important to report it. Parents can now report adverse reactions themselves on what's called the yellow card system. They can do that online. It used to be just doctors who did that, but now for some years parents have been able to, because doctors are more often than not, if a vaccine is given and then something happens, they are likely to put it down as coincidence. They're like to say, well, we know vaccines don't cause that, therefore it didn't. Which we should be thinking that if we give any medical intervention and something happens, well, maybe it could be that intervention, or it's that intervention until proved otherwise. So I would plead, whenever there is a side effect from a vaccine, report it, let your doctor know, report it online, and shout out about it.
I'd like to say a couple of things about this. First of all, the lady at the back will not get into trouble until she falls out with her husband, and then the husband wants to be vaccinated, and the wife. Most of the case, social services get involved there, and we always lose. Second thing, what we've got to do is one advantage we have. One disadvantage we have is we have the impediment of a pharmaceutical industry to control what goes on. I'm having much better success in places like Mexico and Turkey in getting people together, the parents, the professionals. I know there are not many professionals as brave as Jane Donegan and Richard here, who they're the real heroes who put their careers on the line and get mocked and sneered. The devil would look after his own kids, and that's what we're doing. We need the parents, the professionals, the politicians, and the people with autism on side. So they're working on the 4 Ps in these countries. I'd dearly love to show the video in Mexico, and I want the rest of them. I want England and the United States to say, look what the Mexicans are doing. Why can't we do this? And as Richard said earlier, about the single measles vaccine, which we have far less of a problem with. My daughter has an autistic brother, clearly. Her husband has 2 autistic brothers, huge genetic fragility there. When her daughters were born, they both projectile vomited, so they didn't have the MMR. It was either MMR or nothing. And my daughter would quite well have accepted a single measles vaccine under those, but you'd had to make a choice, MMR or nothing. And I can see no justifiable reason why they cannot allow us even to do that in that situation. But we've got to make the rules. We've got to seize the agenda. This is what we want. What politicians want to do is to look good. And if we can make them look good, help them look good, give them the information, they'll help us too.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Was it James Cameron who vaccinated his son? Yeah. Tony Blair.
There was a lot of guesswork about that. I think we still do.
We know. We know there was a report in the Mail.
There's a microphone there for you.
Johnston. We know there was a report in the Mail, and there was one of Cherry Blair's sisters had an autistic child. This report, you can still see it online on the Mail's website, but it needs looking for, but it's not reviewed.
Thank you. We've got a couple of minutes. We are going to continue this conversation outside of the screening room. We've probably got time for maybe one more question, and then Natalie, you go. And then we can wrap up afterwards. Do you want to?
Excuse me. Yeah. Sorry but we have to go in a minute. Yeah. To collect our kids. Can
Sure.
I just say something very quickly? Just to take.
Do you want to take the microphone if you? Can we have a question at the end?
I'll try and keep it really brief. But our daughter was born and due for the MMR around the time of
Sure.
Andrew Wakefield and that whole thing blowing up. And I am also a teacher and worked with many autistic children. Although I loved them, I didn't want to risk
You bring the microphone a bit
Sorry.
closer.
So I would just say, take courage. We didn't have the MMR there. We had a son later on. We hadn't given it to our daughter, so we didn't give it to our son. We've been a little bit worried all these years, but they're healthy. They're absolutely fine. They both had measles and survived it a few years ago. And of course you feel, oh my God, they've got measles. But I had measles as a child. They came through it. I took my son on a plane, still covered in the rash. The doctor's notes say it's fine, it's fine. It's not contagious anymore. We didn't have the latest one. What's it called for autumn? HPV. Because I won't even have a flu jab actually. So, but they're fine. That's all I wanted to say. Really. Better go and get them because they may not be fine.
Thank you very much.
So sorry, we have to leave.
It's all right. Yeah, you selected. You just can the lady in the white. If you can grab a microphone from.
Sorry.
Hi, I'm Helen, and it's nice to see Magda over there because I've had email correspondence and you never met before. My daughter had a very bad reaction to the HPV vaccine, so it's a good thing those people didn't give it to their daughter. And to just say very quickly, you're talking about the pharmaceutical companies. I mean, I'm working with parents campaigning on this at the moment. I've had meetings in the House of Commons, MPs know about it. I mean, it's just I can't believe they don't do anything when they actually hear the stories and know what happens. But what we have noticed is that when stories come out in the press that are at all raising a new issue about the HPV vaccine, within moments, it's all set up. Whoever's behind this, I know you used to believe in conspiracy theories, but something is definitely going on because supportive studies or comments or something immediately go online too, and so the Google search goes right down. So it'll be top of the Google search for like a matter of half a day, and then after that something else will come out which will bump it right down. So there's somebody behind it, but who it is I don't know. But what I wanted to ask you was that obviously you've got experience of ill children, and what the experience.
Sorry, this is to.
Well, this is to Richard probably, and I'm sorry I've forgotten your name, but Paul. Is that the parents I'm in touch with, their daughters are very ill. They go to the doctor. Now, doctors, a lot of these parents and families are going to the same doctors. We're going to the same hospitals, particularly in London. So the staff at those hospitals are very well aware of the children, the girls that are going into these hospitals with the same symptoms, and the parents saying, "Oh, it happened just immediately after the HPV vaccine." The doctors are obviously very reluctant to speak out. This is a new thing for me, and I've been totally shocked by the fact that they are maybe scared to speak out because of what happened to Andrew Wakefield, but nobody will join the dots. You'd think they'd say, gosh, we're seeing a lot of girls coming in here, even I'll say on camera, Great Ormond Street, who actually told me, the staff, that, wow, the number of girls that are coming in with this illness directly after the HPV vaccine. And I said, I can't understand why you're not putting it together and raising a signal with government that you're noticing something. And they won't. So it's to ask you, why won't, because more and more of these, other illnesses, I don't know from other vaccines, this is the one that's happened to us, that doctors are left picking up the pieces, trying to get children better, and they haven't got any solutions. So at some point, surely the medical profession will have to say, hang on, we just can't deal with this anymore.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very worried about the HPV vaccine, obviously a relatively new vaccine, and we're hearing more and more about nasty autoimmune side effects as a result of that vaccine, not only reported by parents, but also reported in all the medical journals. So there are some doctors who are concerned. It's no longer a recommended vaccine in Japan, so it's been partially withdrawn there, if you like. There is a lot of concern about it all over the world. But you're quite right. Doctors are reluctant to put anything down to vaccines. It's as I described before, that if a symptom happens after a vaccine, how do we know it's the vaccine? It's very difficult, of course, to prove that it is the vaccine. Equally difficult, of course, to prove that it isn't the vaccine. You just don't know. But once again, I would say as before, they need to be reported every time a girl suffers a serious reaction to the HPV vaccine. It needs to be reported. to the MHRA on the yellow card system, which can be done online. And I've actually, in the next edition of my book, I'm doing a much larger chapter on HPV vaccine, which voices that concern. I'm very worried about it. I mean, it's in a way, it's sort of the next MMR. It's a nasty one.
Thank you very much. This has been very patient.
Can I just come in extra fast here? One, I forgot the killer punchline for my last story about my granddaughters who were not vaccinated anything. One of them had the HPV vaccine a year ago, and now she's gone.
Oh, sorry.
Etc.
So sorry.
They just say, oh, it's ME, CFS, POTS, medically unexplained symptoms. There you go.
Thank you. So we would need to take a question from yourself.
Sibling.
First off, congrats on the whole film, because it's really good. Really fair-minded, really balanced, good, neither pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine, and I really think that attitude is the way forward, and I really like your attitude toward vaccines as well. It's really commendable, Dr. Richard, and yeah.
So your name is?
My name's David. I'm Mo's son, brother of Ryan, who's autistic, obviously.
And vaccine damaged.
Yeah, Anna. I've met loads a few, the siblings that I've met through Mo and Holly and everyone else, they've been the most inspirational kind of people that I've met, and I've made lifelong friends with them, and it's really, they're just great people, and obviously we've kind of got our own lives at uni, at school, do whatever. So I was just asking what siblings could do.
Yay.
Well done, son. And it's to anyone, okay, good.
Maybe from the last. So we've got time for one more.
What can siblings do?
You also have a daughter.
Yeah, I've got a daughter who's early 20s.
Join together.
And
tell your
what can I say?
Because we're obviously the next kind of best thing for the actual siblings of them. Because once the parents have gone, we kind of know the most about them.
Yeah, keep speaking your truth.
Right, yeah, take a lot of responsibility.
Speak
so
your
it's quite nice
truth.
to get some freedom in the sort of first part of your life, and then maybe take on more responsibility as you get older, I would imagine.
Truth, freedom of speech.
Right, speak your truth.
We have time for one more question, and then we can continue the debate out, but they've got on the screening in here afterwards. Would you like to do the final question?
Thank you very much. First of all, I'd like to thank you for your bravery.
Yes.
My questions are two, and they're to the audience. First of all, would you buy a product that has not been tested for safety?
No.
Vaccines are products. We are consumers. Think about it.
That's right.
Yeah. Question two. Excuse me. I have a daughter that nearly died from the MMR, so I'm understandably a bit emotional about it. The second question for you is, do you know that your GPs are incentivized to put vaccines into your children? Get yourself educated, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Just a final point before we leave, Natalie, if I could pass the microphone and you could summarise, because it's very emotional, and I realise that we need to conclude this Q&A.
I don't know what to say really. Well, I think, as you said, we need to question, we need to talk about it. People need to have an awareness, and that's what I wanted with this film. I didn't want people to run off and say, oh my God, I'm never going to vaccinate again. I want them to think about it. I want them to question it. I want them to look what is important for them or not. If they're traveling to Africa, maybe it is intelligent to give a polio vaccine. If they're staying in Europe, it's fine. I mean, you need to look at every disease individually and say, okay, do I need this that early? Do I need to do it? Can I delay it? Is it important? Is it not important? And I wanted people to actually question things, and hopefully people will just start, questioning.
Thank you very much, everybody, indeed, for coming. Very much appreciated. Very good for the subject. Thank you very much for our panel and all of you.